Is the recent terrorist shooting in D.C. the final wake-up call to confront American immigration policy? Here's the point. Last week, Ramanullah Lakhanwal, an Afghan national, opened fire in Washington, D.C., killing National Guardsman Sarah Beckstrom and critically wounding Andrew Wolf. Witnesses say Lakhanwal shouted Allah Akbar during the shooting, unquestionably linking his targeted attack with jihadi terrorism. Lakhanwal entered the U.S. through Operation Allies Welcome during Biden's chaotic Afghanistan withdrawal in September 2021, when over 76,000 Afghan nationals were evacuated with little vetting. Lakhanwal worked with the CIA in Kandahar under a U.S. partner program, which likely made him a compelling case for entry into our country. President Trump immediately responded on Truth Social, calling for a pause in migration from all third world countries and to re-examine every alien who entered from Afghanistan. This attack is by no means isolated. The Boulder shooting, Pulse nightclub massacre, San Bernardino attack, the Allen, Texas mall shooting all share one thread: Islamic terrorism on American soil as a result of immigration policies that prioritize virtue signaling over American lives. So how should we think about this? And here's the point. First, we must acknowledge what our political class refuses to say. Islam, as a comprehensive religious and political system, is fundamentally incompatible with constitutional law and the American way of life. In the wake of 9/11, the Bush administration immediately absolved Islam of the atrocities carried out in its name. We were told Islam is a religion of peace, hijacked by extremists. 24 years later, that narrative has proven catastrophically false. It is not xenophobic to speak truth about Islam. The West's project of multiculturalism and social experimentation with mass Islamic immigration has been nothing short of suicidal. Islam does not separate mosque and state. It is a totalizing and totalitarian worldview. Under Sharia law, there is no religious liberty as Americans understand it. Apostasy carries the death penalty. Women are legally subordinated to men. Free speech critical of Islam is punishable by death. Free society and political self-determination are considered inferior by Islam. Islam has 3 immigration phases, beginning with taqiyya, lying about Islam's true intentions. Phase 1, Muslims are peaceful. Phase 2, they demand accommodations. Phase 3, they impose Sharia wherever they have demographic majority. In New York City, Dearborn, Michigan, and Minneapolis, Minnesota, we're seeing city council meetings open with Islamic prayers. Schools accommodate Islamic dress codes. Candidates campaign on pro-Hamas platforms. Death to America can be heard in Muslim protests in America today. When you import Islam, you invite chaos and the collapse of freedom. Second, Western liberals have weaponized compassion to destroy American security and sovereignty. Christopher Hitchens said, Islamophobia was a word created by fascists, used by cowards to manipulate morons. He continued, get used to the capitulation you will have to make for these people, but do it in your own name. I'm not surrendering. I'm prepared to fight these people all the way to the bitter end. Hitchens stated what leftists refuse to admit. Mass immigration from Islamic nations is civilizational suicide. The result? Muslim men carry out violent attacks shouting Allah Akbar, and our mainstream media turns a blind eye. Third, getting immigration policy right is essential for our survival as a constitutional republic. Republican Congressman Buddy Carter said leftist rhetoric of violence has fueled actual violence. While an Afghan refugee commits jihadi killing, liberals use violent language against political opponents. We have an obvious problem of political violence on the left. And Republican Brandon Gill of Texas said, Islamic terrorism isn't native to America. It didn't come on the Mayflower. It's alien to most of American history. Rather, we imported Islamic terrorism in just the last few decades through our suicidal immigration system. It was a policy choice. The reality is that not all cultures are morally equal. Islam is incompatible with our culture and our governing system. Every nation has the right to determine who enters, under what conditions, and for what purposes. No nation survives if it cannot control borders or imports millions who reject its foundational beliefs. The founders understood this. Our immigration policy until the 1960s required immigrants have merit, be of good character, who would support the Constitution and naturalize lawfully, and from countries who shared cultural cohesion with the West. Successful republics require cultural cohesion, shared values, and common allegiances, beginning most obviously with the Christian faith. You cannot sustain a constitutional republic when millions believe Sharia should be the supreme law of the land. Finally, Christians must stop confusing the Great Commission with open borders. The church makes disciples of all nations. The state must exercise good governance, including secure borders and protecting citizens. These are not the same. Conflating them is unbiblical. Romans 13 is clear. Government wields the sword for the public good to punish evildoers and promote righteousness. A government that refuses to secure borders allows enemies of freedom to enter unchecked. And any government that prioritizes foreign nationals over its citizens has abandoned its God-given mandate. Acts 17 shows us that God made every nation and determined their appointed times and boundaries. Nations matter to God. Borders matter to God. National sovereignty matters to God. Love for the sojourner, compassion for the exile, and hospitality for strangers are for the stewardship and conscience of the individual Christian, not the public obligation of kings or civil governments. It's the job of the Christian shepherd to love everyone within proximity of their church or ministry, but it's the job of the government to ensure that everyone doesn't include jihadi terrorists. Christian compassion should never be co-opted by the state. Christian compassion does not require national suicide. Mercy to the wolves is death to the sheep. So what must we do? We must demand an immediate end to immigration from nations whose culture and religion are incompatible with American constitutional governance. That means we must restrict immigration from Islamic nations, full stop. President Trump is right to speak truthfully and raise alarm on this issue. This is not xenophobia. This is wise, judicious, and common sense policy. Sarah Beckstrom is dead because the Biden administration cared more about political expediency than protecting Americans. And those are the facts. We must speak the truth openly and with courage, especially when it's costly. Islam is not compatible with freedom. Mass immigration from incompatible cultures is civilizational suicide. Pray for the families of Andrew Wolf and Sarah Beckstrom. Pray for wisdom for our leaders. Pray for courage to stand for truth. While America may not be our eternal home, it is our earthly home. God has planted us here. We have a duty and responsibility to ensure it remains free for the gospel of Jesus Christ, for our families, for our neighbors, and most of all, for the glory of God.